I know, right? It's a little bit surprising to see one of these things out here. And that's because you can practically spell the word mall wagon with an E, because the closest that a lot of these G-Wagons get to dirt is the dust that settles on them if they sit in a parking garage for too long. But before the G-Wagon became a status symbol, it was designed to be a hardcore off-roader. So we've gotten our hands on the beefed up Mercedes-Benz G550 Professional, and it would be a shame to just take it to the nearest high-end boutique. That's why we're here at an off-road park instead of at the Louis store, and we're gonna get this thing very dirty. So what is a G550 Professional? This is one of two G-Class varieties that you can buy right now in the US. There's this one, and then the much more crazy AMG G63. Now, that doesn't mean that the G550 is a slouch at all. Under the hood, you still get a bi-turbo V8 that makes plenty of power, trust me, for both on-road and off-road activities. The Professional package is an add-on to the G550. It's been offered for a few years now, and it adds on a few items of interest. The most obvious one is the big roof rack on top that comes with a ladder on the back so you can climb up it. The running boards on the sides have been removed to give you a bit more ground clearance there, and instead of 19-inch wheels, you get 18-inch black wheels wrapped in Falken all-terrain tires. The Professional doesn't add, a ton of off-road capability. You still have basically the same full-time all-wheel drive system you're getting in the regular G550, and it doesn't really add any ground clearance as well either. That's still 9.5 inches, though that is a lot of ground clearance. Adding the Professional package, not cheap. Sort of like everything else on this vehicle, it costs a lot. So it costs just over $25,000 on top of the regular price for G550, which is already pretty high. And this vehicle, of course, comes with other options, and they're all very expensive too. It's got this G manufacturer Arabian gray paint job, $6,500. If you want the Professional package, you also have to get the adaptive suspension, another $1,400. And then there's an interior package that also costs another $12,000, which means that the final total price of this vehicle to just under $190,000. And I don't know about you, but to me, that's a lot of money, and we're gonna do stuff with it? Yeah. One thing I have to mention about the G-Wagon is how good it is driving on just sort of a normal dirt road like this. Usually in even a very capable off-road vehicle, when you're on a dirt road, things get really noisy, things are like bouncing around, but I'm driving on this dirt road, I'm doing about 35 miles an hour, and this cabin is still so tranquil and quiet. On the way here, I was listening to a podcast. I didn't have to turn it up when we got on the dirt road. It's just kind of gliding over everything. The suspension is so good. It's good. This thing is so good. So we're going to play a little game, and to do that, we've brought along a friend. Fans of the Edmunds channel, you will recognize this vehicle. This is our long-term Ford Bronco, and it's here to sort of give us an off-road baseline. This isn't going to be a traditional comparison because how could it be? The Mercedes costs 3 times as much, and it might be 3 times more luxurious and 3 times better on the road, but there's no way that it's 3 times the off-roader that the Ford is. However, we think that if it can match the Bronco off-road, that still speaks very highly for the Mercedes, and that'll be good enough for us. Our first challenge is real simple. We've got a hill climb here with some very deep ruts in it, and the Bronco is gonna make it up with no problem. So now we're gonna see if the Mercedes can follow in its footsteps. I know the Bronco just made light work of that hill, but that hasn't been the case for every vehicle that we've tested out here, including those with 4-wheel drive and all-terrain tires. Check out our long-term Chevrolet Tahoe Z71 as it tries to go up the same hill and fails, losing its battle with grip and gravity. The G-Wagon has a full-time all-wheel drive system. I have put on the low range, I have engaged the center diff, I've engaged the front and rear lockers, and now we're gonna get to the gnarly part of this hill. So here we go. I'm gonna keep my eyes really fixed on John up there. He's gonna kind of try to guide me through this. Like I said before, there are 3 different differential settings here, so you can actually lock the center and then lock the front and rears individually via these little buttons here on the thing. I can just basically sort of stay at the same throttle tension with my foot here, and it's just kind of crawling up. Oh man, I'm so glad we have a spotter. I can tell that there's one wheel in the air, but you really don't get nervous at all. It's just delivering power so evenly. I mean, this powertrain has a bi-turbo on it. It's a V8 with a bi-turbo, but there's, with the 4-low on, or with the low range on especially, absolutely smooth, even power delivery. One down, huh? So, the G-Wagon got through the first challenge, and it got through it pretty easily, I have to say. Really impressed with this vehicle. For our second test, we're here at the Ziggeraut, and this is designed to test the suspension articulation of both vehicles. Our Bronco is already up here. It made it up 1, 2, 3 steps with the tire just touching the 4th step before the rear wheel started to lose traction, and that's kind of where you cut things off. Now the Bronco does have some equipment that the G-Wagen doesn't. It's got disconnecting front and rear sway bars, which should give it a bit more flex than we're gonna have in the Mercedes, but let's get it over here and see how high it can go. All right, it's time to load the Mercedes up on the Ziggeraut. Our big worry is the nose. We're hoping that it's gonna be able to make it over this front step okay. Got John up there spotting. Nope, gotta go more right. Gonna try to take the exact same line we did in the Bronco, go real slow. Okay, parking sensors are starting to go a little crazy here. Real even, easy power. All right, they're telling me that it's off, so this is as far as the Mercedes can go. Let's get out and measure. Oh, big drop. So, gotta say, it was actually pretty easy to get the Mercedes up here. The nose didn't really jut out as far as we thought it might, so the approach angle worked out pretty well. As you can see, it didn't quite make it as far as the Bronco. The Bronco basically went up 1 more full step, but with those disconnecting sway bars, that's sort of what we expected. Still though, impressed by how high the Mercedes got and how easy it was to put up here. While we have the G-Wagen up here, this is a good time to sort of show you a bit of the reason that we're concerned taking this thing off-road. When we had the Bronco in this spot, you could see that sort of what's underneath here was just basically the frame. So if you drag the frame on a rock or you bang it on something, it's really not that big of a deal. But on the G-Wagen, this isn't frame, this is actually the exhaust system, and there's no shielding or anything on it. So if you bash this on a rock, that's probably bad news and a lot of dollar signs. And instead of like a steel rail here like you get on the Bronco, that's some very expensive plastic. For our third test, we have the pipes, and this is sort of going to combine all the elements that we've tested so far. So to successfully get over this, you're gonna need good articulation, you're gonna need good ground clearance, and you're gonna need great traction management. Now this is a really stiff test even for our Bronco to get through, and at some points it actually scrapes on the bottom, but we're less concerned because that's the frame. For the Mercedes, I'm very nervous, but we're gonna see how far I can get. I'm very nervous, but we're gonna see how far I can get. That's okay, right? That's okay. All right, so now it's time to try it in the Mercedes, and I have $190,000. All right, we're gonna. I am very nervous. Once again, of course, in low range, we've got the center diff lock, we've got the rear diff lock, not the fronts though, because we want to keep it a bit more flexible. Got my spotter John up there, thankfully. This thing costs $190,000, but on the technology front, there are no surround view cameras, which off-road are super useful. I'm almost entirely dependent on the spotter to really tell me where I am and if I'm at the right angles and if I'm where I need to be. As I said earlier, a lot of the parts in the car that you really don't want to hit are kind of exposed, especially along the sides. So we're being super careful, and that's definitely the way to do it. I'm sweating. The AC is on. Hold on, I gotta turn on my cooled seat all the way here. We're basically going forward like 6-8 inches at a time. We have to recheck. We have to make sure that nothing on the underbody is gonna hit, that nothing's gonna drag, and then we kind of creep forward again. Here we go. All right, we got over that first part. I have no idea what the front wheels are even on right now, so I'm entirely just looking at John and trying to follow directions as best I can. Ooh, bounce there, but nothing hit on the underbody, so that's good. If we're talking just measurably, this thing actually has better ground clearance than our Bronco. So we've made it through sort of the first section, and now this part is where it gets really hard. To start the second part of the pipes, there's a really big sort of step up onto basically what's a big concrete pipe. This is the part where I think that we may run into some real issues. $190,000. Oh, all right, here we go. All right, we're approaching it right now. I can feel the first tire kind of pushing onto it. I think we have enough clearance. Yep, front right tire's up. All right, there's the front left tire making contact. Try to go up a little bit here. Oh, this would be impossible if the power delivery wasn't so smooth. Pretty phenomenal, the way that this powertrain is set up for this. This is a sketchy part. We're definitely very sideways here on this hill. John's giving me the look of like he's not sure, so we'll see what he says, but this is this is real terror because this thing is so expensive and I don't want to hit it on anything. I feel like I need a break. All right, at this point, we're gonna have to lock the front just because of the way that the car is set up. We think that we can go a little further, So yeah, here we go. Nice and slow. Slow and steady, right? Slow and steady. I could barely see John's hands above the hood. He's basically just telling me come forward a little bit, steering correction, come forward a little bit, steering correction, come forward a little bit, steering correction. There's basically one line in which we can take to get through this safely, and it needs to be like inch perfect with the tires. So I'm going so slow and I'm so wired. I don't even know how to describe it. We're just kind of trying to slightly change the angle at which we're going to come at this next part of the obstacle. Right, go forward, steering full to the right. This really is a team effort. This is spotter, vehicle. I feel like I need a good glass of wine after this. He's telling me to go slow. I'm basically using, like, you have to feed in just enough throttle to get one tire up onto one thing, and then as you're doing that, another tire is coming down on another thing. This is all brakes right now. We're a little bit coming down. He's saying slow, slow, slow to me on the outside right here. Is it over? Yeah. It made it? Oh, check please. There's a big part of me that wanted nothing more than to come out here and have this thing absolutely fall on its face, because watching something big and expensive fail, that's entertaining for everyone. But instead, at every turn, it's done pretty much everything that we asked of it, and it's proven to be a great vehicle off-road, and on-road, it's pretty good as well. Now, there are things about it that aren't perfect, the technology especially. It's got that old command multimedia system, which means you don't even have a touchscreen inside. And there are other quirks like how this roof rack blocks half of the sunroof, and that the back seat is really not great for anyone over 5'8". However, anytime you get even a little bit annoyed, something about it just really reels you back in, from the way it drives to the way that it looks. It just oozes cool. Even the way that the doors sound and the trunk sounds when you open it, that's like automotive ASMR of the highest order. So it turns out that I don't hate the G-Wagen. I don't even like the G-Wagen. I friggin' love this thing. And the sad part is that it turns out love does cost a thing, 190,000 things to be exact. So now I have to go back to the drawing board and figure out which second and third jobs I'm gonna get to maybe get one day. Hey, you wanted me up here for the conclusion, right? Yeah. But max weight is 100 kilograms. What's that in pounds? Does anyone know what that is in pounds?
220.
220? Oh, we're in trouble. We should have brought Clint.